Now, let's go, those are the bad news. Now the good news. Now the good news are many, are quite numerous. The first one, the largest one, which concerns Italy, France, Europe, and so on, is that if our French politicians, our European politicians have not been really at the level, at least the American politicians have been at the level, and let me tell you, I was so impressed by the decision of January 21st when President Obama announced a reform of the financial system based on Mr. Volcker's idea. I was absolutely impressed. I said, this is the best news ever heard. I mean, I knew that Obama was a great guy, but in this case, he demonstrated a fantastic capacity. I don't know if you've been reading, I don't wish you have read that, because that's tough reading, but the so-called Frank-Dodd law, which was published in July, which is the program of this financial reform. But you find out there that there is a clear reform of the banking system, which is splitting the activities of arbitrage for own account from the rest of the business. And my impression is that this is maybe a small step, but it's already a good step, which will, in the end, reform the financial system. My bet is that this will not be affordable for European banks to keep their business together. My bet is that they will be forced to reform because they will be coming more and more in their international business into tremendous risk of discrepancy in credit ratings. In other words, you know, comparing to British banks, to American banks, they will have a problem because American banks will not mix the business and will end up in more efficiencies, in my opinion. So we'll see what comes out. But in my opinion, at least, at last, it's very good news. The Americans have dared to do it. The second thing is also, by the way, that the European and the European discussion of a green paper goes slightly also in that direction. So it's another good news from the point of view of the banking reform. And let me tell you, I'm a former banker, and I tell you there is nothing more beautiful as a business for me than banking, credit, and deposit. It's a business of trust, it's a business of courage, it's a business of engagement. This is a great business. The confusion of business is a tragedy. Those people have lost their souls. In France, there is no banker who can say, I'm a proud banker. The confusion has created immense, I call that salad in France, immense mission of, those guys don't know where they are. I mean, they have to betray 3 customers out of 4. Can you imagine a business like that? I'm sorry. So this is just to say that it's good news for banking too, in my opinion. It's good news for everybody. The second thing is that the directive of shareholders is also coming into application in Europe, and the reading of it. Now, in France, it's important. This directive of shareholders was obtained in 2007 with a compulsory application in the European countries before August 2009. In France, it's not yet done. So let me tell you, but the last reading and the good news I have for this group today is that I was at the AMF last week where the Groupe sur l'épargne salariale presented this report, and the final report of that group is that the directive obliged the French system to be reformed, and therefore the participation of managers to vote to be ended. In other words, there will be some strong reform that will free the shareholders vote at general meetings in Europe. This is good news. The third good news is that I observe, and in line with something which you might have seen from the Stewardship Code, which was adopted in July in Great Britain with a new version of the Combined Code that you might have heard of. We're talking about corporate governance codes, and the Stewardship Code is a code that applies especially to money managers, to asset managers, and putting some compulsory discipline in terms of voting. But what is important is that it forces for a lengthy dialogue between investors and companies. And what is refreshing for you, employee shareholders, is that I see that there will be a demand. There will be a demand from big investors to keep a constant dialogue with the companies. You, employee shareholders, you are the best specialist of your own company, I'm sorry. You are the best specialist of your own company, and therefore you are extremely precious from the point of view of the other investors to understand the company better. And also what is great for you is that now the time span is opening from the traditional 3 weeks before the meeting, which we had for voting, for a much larger time span, which was going to last for a year before the meeting, whereby people now, investors, companies now know that if nothing comes out of discussion, then there will be resolutions. But in other words, the time span is expanding, and you as employee shareholder can use that time for defining objectives, defining proposals, suggesting improvements, and it's in any case a very interesting and positive news. Fifth advantage, we see some innovations going on in the business of shareholders encouragement. We need that. My friend here has been demonstrating that, but management companies are absolutely dying of equity for the years to come. It's a big problem. We have no, people say, well, okay, the crisis is over. The crisis is not over because technically there's no shareholders left. And therefore, governments will be obliged to think about fiscal encouragement, as you suggested, but also to think about, encouraging the concept of equity participation and reevaluating it. And I see here some interesting also innovations coming on, such as the reform of scrip dividends. You know, scrip dividend is a concept by which you reinvest. Those things can be improved, can be better and sane. The creation of engaged shareholders holding companies, family holding companies will possibly talk now with employee shareholders. Something new, never happened before. Two different worlds, never talk to each other. They are coming together now. They're coming to say, what can we do together? Let's have a family holding company which is open to employee shareholders. Let's have an employee shareholder fund that can be open to other shareholders. New concept, opening of holding companies to think about the future of the company. Engage shareholders, people who block their shares, people who say, I'm going to be there for 5 years from now. That's good news. That's in my opinion, the type of interesting innovation that will come. Finally, proxy firms like my firm have been encouraging always employee shareholding, and we're going to keep that with always an eye at Proxinvest on our voting policies to say we don't see the conditions about any shares issuance for employee shareholders if there is less than 5% of the capital in the hand of the employees. We don't want to discuss. Employee shareholders are good. Don't look at the discounts or things like that. You know, they are good for the companies. We have up to 5%. They're good. You want more than 5%? Okay, but let us make sure that your voting process is democratic. That's the only point. Now, starting at 5%, we say, well, if the system is extremely democratic, we can accept maybe 10% discount. You see, in other words, there is this idea that we are in favor of it, and also we can encourage the system. Finally, I would like to say that there is a need, a very strong need, for employee shareholders to take their act together, which is they have to define strategies for the firms. Not to criticize for the critic, but just to be standing aside of the companies. You like your companies, you are investors in those companies, you like also the guys who manage them, but just don't take them for granted. You have to respect them and also vote for them with your heart and your spirit. If you want to criticize them, tell them you are overpaid, my friend. You are overpaid. Let me just tell you, you are overpaid. I've said that to many managers in France. I can tell you they never have killed me for that, not yet at least. And I honestly believe that there is nothing I lost by saying the truth, by saying, I think this is a rotten decision, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry, I will not support it. Whereby, what can I do for you to help you? Because this is very good what you do here for the company. Thank you. That's it. Thank you.